BARK Radio.
What's good, everybody? It's Robo from All Bark back with another video, and today we're going to my college football Week 9 picks. We are in the middle of the best stretch of the season with college football games starting on Tuesday and lasting all week long. Week 9 starts Tuesday night back in the Conference USA again, but before we get into those games, let's go ahead and recap the Week 8 results. Week 8 was a decent one for the picks. I had a solid win-loss record of 41-18, and against the spread went slightly above 500 after a disastrous noon slate. Still helped out the yearly ATS record though slightly, so I can't complain with how things have gone. But I'm hoping for another big week this week to build that margin upwards even more. This week again starts on Tuesday night as we've got football every day of the week now. So let's try to get back to winning and dive into Week 9 starting with those Tuesday matchups. Kennesaw State at FIU is our first Tuesday matchup. It's a game I'm pretty excited for after seeing last week's performances from these two. However, it's a nightmare to pick a winner. FIU just ran all over Western Kentucky, which is what they do. But Kennesaw State's defense can stop the run. On the other side of the ball, Dexter Williams played well, and Amari Odom may be back at quarterback, but FIU just completely clamped Western Kentucky's passing attack, which I thought pretty high of. So this is a very tough game to call. With a complete toss-up, I'll lean FIU to get it done at home as a slight underdog, but it really comes down to the health of both of these teams and coming out in rhythm, as most of those Conference USA games go. So it's FIU for me here, 23-20. Western Kentucky at Louisiana Tech is the second Tuesday matchup, and Louisiana Tech's quarterback Blake Baker's status is really key for me to win this game. Both of these teams are coming off of embarrassing losses, but at least La Tech's lost Baker early on in the game with a lead, and then they're back up through an instant pick six, which completely changed the course of that game. I still think the La Tech defense is really good as they were all year until last week, and hopefully they're able to run the ball on Western Kentucky, whose defense is flat out terrible this season. I do expect a much better game from Maverick McIver. He was having a great year before last game, but again, I'll lean with the home team and another Conference USA toss-up. So give me Louisiana Tech, 31-24. Conference USA action continues Wednesday with Middle Tennessee State at Delaware. Delaware should win this game. Middle Tennessee is just flat out terrible so far this season. The only win on the season from them is at Nevada, and they've lost close games to Kennesaw State and Missouri State in recent weeks. Delaware is coming off of a very ugly road loss to Jacksonville State, but they've been very good at home for most of the season and are just honestly a better team than they played like last week. They even battled back fairly well in that game, but it was just too little too late. This is a very good matchup for Delaware in my opinion, so I'll take them to bounce back and cover at home, 35-23. Missouri State at New Mexico State is next on Wednesday. New Mexico State is playing pretty well lately. They blew out a bad Sam Houston team and then nearly upset Liberty on the road last week. Missouri State is a tough opponent though, who played decent on the road, both beating Marshall and Middle Tennessee. Starting quarterback Jacob Clark's status is questionable for this game, but Deuce Bailey hasn't been too bad in relief of him so far. But New Mexico State quarterback Logan Fife has been good here and there. I've seen him ball out in the past, and I think they can score on this defense with a very good receiving core for this conference's standards. So I'll take him at home to continue playing better football and pick up the win as a slight underdog, 27-24. The standalone Thursday night game is South Alabama at Georgia State. Georgia State was very competitive with Georgia Southern last week until the fourth quarter, and South Alabama is just flat out disappointing this season. They took an ugly loss last week to Arkansas State where the offense completely no-showed. Holding Arkansas State to 15 points and losing the game is something I never saw coming. That is not a great defense, and they just could not get anything going. They've been seriously up and down this season, so I really cannot ride with them on the road as a touchdown favorite. So I'll take Georgia State to at least cover and flirt with an upset, but I definitely don't love it. I'll go with a 28-23 final. Friday is a triple header starting with North Texas at Charlotte. Charlotte's a very, very bad team, and North Texas bounced back from the South Florida loss in a big way last week, absolutely dominating a solid UTSA team who is just way better than the Charlotte team to me. Charlotte doesn't have good skill players, they have no confidence in their quarterbacks, the defense isn't any good, so this should be an ugly game. North Texas just dominates. I know that offense can score on just about anyone, and the defense has shown up and dominated against bad offenses this season. So I'll lay the points, trusting that offense for the most part, and take North Texas big, 45-13. Cal is traveling across the country this week to take on Virginia Tech. Cal survived a scare from North Texas last week, getting a goal line fumble to secure the win, which was obviously not great to see coming off of that Duke loss. Virginia Tech is rested off a bye week as well, but their last time out was a road loss to Georgia Tech. This offense is just not great, and Kyron Jones has not been good this season at quarterback. Jaron Kiave Sangapolotele has been going through some growing pains as well, but the defense has been helping them out a bit this season outside of the Duke and San Diego State games. I just think Virginia Tech is a bad enough football team that Cal can hang around with them a bit of a lower scoring game. But at home, with some advantages there, I think they do take this game by about a field goal, 24-21. Boise State has reestablished themselves as a top 3 Group of 5 team in the country, just obliterating UNLV last week, who was honestly lucky to even be in that game early on, and Boise just kept the foot on the gas and blew that game wide open over time. At this point, we know they've got a good front 7 and an elite secondary that takes the ball away, and a rushing offense that can flat out dominate the Mountain West. This week's opponent is Nevada on the road. Nevada just lost a close one to New Mexico where the offense just could not do enough. They held the New Mexico offense in check, giving up just 24 points, and Boise State is a whole different monster on both sides of the ball. I feel pretty comfortable taking them to roll over this Nevada team with less offense to deal with, 42-14. We'll start Saturday with UCLA at Indiana. UCLA has won 3 straight games, but this is where they run into a wall, I think. Nico and the UCLA offense was rolling, but Maryland found a way to stop them and force OT on the road, and Indiana is just mean, especially at home. Fernando Mendoza is absolutely balling, and he's got some incredible weapons. I don't think UCLA has the DBs to match up, and I know for a fact Indiana does on the other end to shut down Nico's passing attack. Maybe they come out slow again like they did against MSU, but I think this could look a lot like the Illinois game, as they won't be surprised after 3 straight wins out of UCLA. So give me Indiana to roll, 45-17. Georgia Tech hosts Syracuse this week, and the Syracuse quarterback play is flat out atrocious. It's completely ruined their season. I really wish Steve Angeli was healthy for their sake, but they really just have no chance to win this game on the road in my opinion. Georgia Tech can be lackluster in these spots against bad teams, especially defensively. They've got a history of it, but I just think this is a major mismatch, and they should have their eyes set on some big goals now. With how their season is unfolded, they're ranked in the top 10 in a prime position to lock up a playoff spot. Haynes King and this Tech offense should score a ton in this game, so give me Georgia Tech to cover at home, 34-13. Oklahoma Ole Miss is one of the most anticipated games of the week. A massive game in the SEC with playoff implications. Oklahoma went on the road last week and dominated South Carolina with another defensive masterclass. And John Mateer didn't play great at all, but it was enough to get the win, and that game was never really close. Ole Miss, on the other hand, is a really strong opponent who definitely has a chance to take this game on the road. They went into Georgia last week and went back and forth and held a lead late in the game, but let Georgia finish strong and take the win. That was still a very impressive game from Ole Miss to me, put up 35 in the first 3 quarters on the road. I expect that to help them compete this week again, but Oklahoma's defense is just better than Georgia's to me. I think this one goes down to the wire as well, and I'm going to trust Oklahoma's defense to get a final stand late and win this one close, 30-27. North Carolina looked better against Cal, but they are still not a good team, and Cal is not a super tough opponent. Virginia's coming off a near loss to Washington State where they had to come from behind and get a lucky safety to win the game. So obviously they aren't on a heater, but that game could provide a bit of a spark, and they still have been the much better team in this matchup this season. I like them preseason, and they've exceeded my expectations at this point. I still like this team on both sides of the ball enough to think they can cover 10 points on the road. If Gio Lopez gets going again, it could be a sweat, but I've got Virginia though, 31-17. South Florida at Memphis is a huge game in the Group of 5 this week. Memphis is coming off a brutal road loss to a bad UAB team coming off of a coach firing. And honestly, this Memphis offense is just not good enough to me to keep up with South Florida. The offense is good with both Brendan Lewis and AJ Hill, but just not on a South Florida level to me. And this being on the road does matter, but we saw with North Texas the other week, South Florida is just dominant. This Memphis team absolutely should bounce back in this spot, and I do expect them to score. I just don't think they're going to sustain it enough. So I'm going to take South Florida yet again to win and continue leading the way for the Group of 5 playoff spot, 41-31. Nebraska is back home hosting Northwestern, and this Husker team needs a statement win badly. They're coming off a rough road loss to Minnesota, and Dylan Raiola just has not looked sharp for a few weeks in a row now. But Northwestern just doesn't have the athletes on offense to outclass this Nebraska defense enough in this matchup to me. And Nebraska's offense is definitely due for a better day after getting dominated last week. There was hardly any pass offense in that game, and I just do not expect Northwestern to have that same success on the road here. I still believe in Nebraska and Matt Rule, so I'll take them to cover a spread up under a touchdown, 27-17. Purdue hosts Rutgers this week after a complete no-show on the road at Northwestern. The offense has scored all season long, but somehow just could not find points at all against Northwestern last week, getting completely shut out 19-0. Just a disgusting performance where we saw backup quarterbacks getting big PT, and that just gives me no reason to expect a big day back at home against Rutgers. This Rutgers defense is clearly bad, but I know for a fact that offense can show up and score points on Purdue at the same time. So even expecting a Purdue offense to wake up, I just think Rutgers is a better football team and a better offense for sure. So I'll trust them on the road to forget that Oregon game last week and win this week, 31-24. SMU just beat Clemson last week on the road and now heads up to Wake Forest. Wake Forest has a great rushing attack that's helped them throughout the season and can absolutely move the ball against this SMU defense. But I cannot bet on Robbie Ashford to win a big game. I've said all year he's just not that guy to me and a very inconsistent player as a passer. And on the other end, we just watched SMU's offense have a pretty solid day against a very good Clemson defense. Sure, that Clemson team was dejected missing their starting quarterback, but that's still a much more talented team than Wake Forest, and they were starting to get things going there the past few weeks. This matchup is much easier, so give me SMU on the road again, 30-20. Kansas State at Kansas is a coin flip game to me. Kansas State's been playing a lot better lately, but still just isn't too great of a team to me. And Kansas isn't either, but they've been able to run the ball really well in some spots, and I think this could be a higher scoring back and forth game. So it's hard to really pick who I trust more, and I don't really want either side. So I'll take the hotter hand in Kansas State, going on the road to their in-state rival and getting it done close, 34-27. Appalachian State absolutely collapsed last week, losing to Coastal Carolina at home. Just an ugly, ugly loss where they got absolutely shredded on the ground by Coastal and got completely shut down offensively in the fourth quarter. Now they have to go on the road to a very solid Old Dominion team who hung around with James Madison, but also collapsed and got blown out in the fourth last week. They're now coming off back-to-back losses after a great start to the season, looking like one of the best teams in the Group of 5. Those were both road matchups though, so returning home, I can definitely buy the bounce-back spot with an offense I definitely trust to shred this App State team again. Give me Old Dominion here, 41-24. Kent State got off to a great start against Toledo, taking a 10-0 lead in the first, but got absolutely obliterated the rest of the way and could not get a single stop if their life depended on it, giving up 45 straight points and having little to no offensive success in the process. Toledo is one of the best teams in the MAC still, though, and Bowling Green just got destroyed by Central Michigan at home last week, so this should be a more competitive game. But BG was out Drew Pine for that game again, and he could be back this week, which would give them a big boost. So I'll roll with Eddie George and the Falcons to get back on the road this week against just an inferior team, 27-17. Ohio is at Eastern Michigan this week after destroying Northern Illinois, and I've said it all year, but last week proved it even further. This EMU team cannot stop the run whatsoever. It's one of the worst defenses in the entire country, and Ohio runs the ball very well as a team, and Parker Navarro is a great runner at quarterback. I don't see how they get stopped often here, even on the road. Ohio's defense isn't great at all as well, but this is a favorable spot up against an Eastern offense that can turn the ball over and just can't match Ohio's production to me. Give me Ohio here, 42-24. Arkansas has really impressed since the Notre Dame loss, nearly pulling off upsets at Tennessee and at home against Texas A&M. This offense is just incredibly good. The offensive line's been elite, they've got weapons, and Taylon Green is playing well. So even up against a very good Auburn defense, I know they're going to score points, especially at home again. They put up 42 against an A&M defense I'd argue as better, and Auburn is just inventing new ways to lose games at this point. It's in their DNA, so even against a team I know they have a chance to beat, I just can't pick them. Arkansas's offense is really trustworthy, and I think they're equally as desperate for a win here. So give me the Hogs at home, 34-31. This Buffalo-Akron game is an ugly matchup. I really hate how Buffalo has played this season. I thought they were a much better team than how they've performed, just playing down to their competition week in and week out against both Kent State and UMass as well. It was insanely lucky that they left UMass with a win at all. That's 5 straight weeks with them where the game went down to the final possession. So even against an awful team in Akron back at home, I just don't see how I can ride with this Buffalo team by double digits. The only time they won by that margin this year was against St. Francis. If they run the ball well, they can do it, but they prefer to air it out, and it just has not looked great for them. So give me Buffalo to survive as Akron covers, 30-23. UConn just blew out Boston College on the road and now heads down to Houston to take on Rice. And the game plan is simple. If UConn can stop the run, they can dominate this game. Rice is rested, and the run game has been good, but they have absolutely zero passing game. And on the other side for UConn, their star receiver, Skylar Bell, is flat out uncoverable. I actually thought he was going to transfer to Michigan this offseason to go play with Bryce Underwood, but he opted to stay at UConn one more year and has just been balling out as expected. Just way too talented for this level of football, and UConn's got a quarterback who knows how to deliver him the football as well as the other guys. So I'll take UConn on the road again here, 34-20. Utah State at New Mexico could be a good one. I kind of think Utah State is a more talented team here. It's definitely a toss-up though, as this middle area of the Mountain West is so up and down, but Bryson Barnes has looked really solid for most of the season, and I know this offense can score points on New Mexico. They put up 35 on Vanderbilt and 22 on Texas A&M this season already. New Mexico is pretty similar in talent level, but has definitely had their struggle games, including last week where at home at night they barely survived against a very bad Nevada team. I just think Utah State's playing better football right now, and I trust their offense more even on the road. So I'll take them here as a slight dog, 31-28. Ty Simpson and Alabama are back on the road this week at South Carolina, and I really like Alabama in this spot. They've been battle-tested this season, and I just really love this offense. I don't know how you stop that three-headed monster receiver trio, especially now that Jam Miller is back into this offense at running back. The offensive line should control this game, and South Carolina is just not going to have a fun time moving the football to me. Bama's defense has their flaws, but this South Carolina offensive line is bad. They found zero success against Oklahoma last week, and I really would not be shocked to see that be repeated. But they should at least score double digits this time around, as I think Bama's secondary has some question marks. So I'll go 31-17. Missouri at Vanderbilt is one of the biggest games of the week. It's definitely a toss-up to me, but I just can't fade Diego Pavia right now. He's just been an absolute dog no matter what the situation is. I think Missouri is the more talented team in this matchup. We know Bo Pribula and Ahmad Hardy can play, and I really like their defense as well, but this Vandy team is no slouch, and they've proven that week after week, hanging with Bama and beating LSU. The defense has done their job in the big games as well, but I really trust Pavia and this offense to deliver at home enough to pick up another massive win this week against a great Missouri team. 27-24. Undefeated BYU travels to Ames to take on Iowa State this week, and my big worry with this Iowa State team is them having no secondary. It's the major reason why they lost the last two games, including Colorado, and even after a bye week, I just don't know if I can trust this defense. This BYU team is very good. They have some absolute studs at receiver who can dominate this matchup, and we've seen them run the ball well against solid defenses too. It's just not a matchup I love for Iowa State. Playing at home is definitely a clear advantage, and BYU is coming off a massive win over Utah. But getting BYU as a dog here with the injury situation the Cyclones have is worth it to me. So I'll take BYU to pull it off on the road, 24-21. I'm expecting Illinois at Washington to be a great game. Washington's coming off a road loss to Michigan where they got pretty much dominated by a good defense. Devon Williams did not have a good day, and Michigan generated a lot of pressure. They'll definitely be looking to bounce back and get things rolling again how they were, but Illinois has a good defense themselves and can definitely compete on the other end as well. Luke Altmaier is a pretty solid quarterback and has delivered against non-top 25 opponents consistently, both last season and this one. The problem lies within the run game for me. I just don't know how well Illinois is going to be able to keep up with Washington if they come out firing, which is why I do lean Washington to win in a place they very rarely lose. But I do expect Illinois to give them a battle. I'm going to take Washington by 3, 30-27. Next is Minnesota at Iowa. Iowa at home is a different beast, but I still like this Minnesota team. They proved a lot against Nebraska, and this defense is for real when they're locked in. They completely dominated that Nebraska offensive line and held them to just 6 points and almost no passing ability. The offense can move the ball on the ground, and I just don't think this Iowa team is truly that much better than them, although they've been playing great. So I do like Minnesota to hang around, but Iowa's going to take this one at home, 24-20. This Toledo at Washington State game definitely feels like a potential trap game to me. Washington State has absolutely hung around with two good teams the past 2 weeks, losing to Ole Miss by just 3 on the road, and then nearly upsetting Virginia the very next week. It's obvious to see the improvement the Cougars have made, but will they be able to transfer that into a matchup against a team they should actually be able to beat this time around is the question, or will they play down to their opponent and let Toledo walk all over them? Toledo is a talented team in the MAC, but they've had some absolute dud weeks, so I lean towards trusting the hot hand with the Cougars, who've played good defense lately and gotten things going against very quality opponents. But it's definitely a spot I could see burning me, so I'll take Washington State, but closer, 28-24. NC State is on the road at Pitt this week, and despite getting blown out by Notre Dame and dropping some tough games, I think NC State is a competitive team still. They're rested off a bye week, CJ Bailey can put up some points, and they can move the ball on the ground as well. Pitt is coming off of a stretch of 3 great performances against Boston College, Florida State, and Syracuse, but I just think this NC State team is a step up in competition level this week and is at least around FSU's level at this point. Pitt's proven to be a better team this season, so I think they do get the win here, but it may be tougher than they hope for. I'll go 31-28. San Diego State at Fresno State should be a great game. The Aztecs have been playing some great football and have really found their rhythm on offense. Back-to-back games of 45 and 44 points after a 6-point night on the road at Northern Illinois. But I think this Fresno State team is the best of their last 4 opponents at the same time. They're coming off a bye week after a blowout road loss to Colorado State, so I'm expecting a much better showing at home this week from them. But this Aztec defense definitely can shut them down at the same time. The inconsistency from this Fresno team is really what makes this game so hard to pick, so I don't love it. But I'm going to side with San Diego State on the road as just a better performing team right now, 27-20. Southern Miss continues to roll through the schedule without too much of a sweat, and that should continue this week as they host Louisiana Monroe. Early on, I actually thought highly of this ULM defense and coaching staff, but the past 3 weeks have just been super ugly, getting blown out by Northwestern, Coastal, and Troy. This Southern Miss team is right on par with Troy in my opinion. This game is not at home for ULM. Southern Miss can flat out score. They've got a guy you can really trust in Braylon Braxton, and the QB play for ULM is just atrocious. They played 3 different guys last week and nobody took over. I'll trust in Braxton and Southern Miss again to win convincingly against an offense I know can get shut down. 34-17. Navy is hosting FAU this week. This FAU defense cannot stop the run, and Navy can run all over teams. But I've also seen FAU's offense ignite lately and really put up some points other than last week against South Florida. And Navy's defense has been beaten pretty consistently this season by both solid offenses and some bad ones. That leads me to believe FAU is going to find some points in this game, and quite a few honestly with how good the passing attack can be. So I don't really love laying more than 2 touchdowns with Navy, even at home. They could absolutely dominate this matchup, but Veltkamp, Messer, and that offense have proven enough to me to side with them hanging around. I'll go 38-28 for a final. Temple's playing very good football right now and gets a favorable matchup to me this week on the road at Tulsa. They've just been so hard to beat and have shown up both on the road and at home lately. They've beaten better teams in this Tulsa squad recently in both UTSA and Navy and just absolutely laid into Charlotte last week on the road. With the offense as in rhythm as they are and a defense that has limited better offenses, I just don't see why I wouldn't trust them to do it again this week. I do really like Trey Lamb and where he's taken this Tulsa team, and they've hung around some solid opponents this year, but they just are not playing at the same level as Temple right now. So I'll take them to win and cover on the road yet again this week, 31-20. Over to the MAC, Ball State is at Northern Illinois this week. NIU just got dominated by Ohio last week, which was definitely expected as the offense is just terrible. For Ball State, when they're clicking, they can actually compete in the MAC. They beat Ohio at home, which was absolutely insane to see, and they put up 42 on Akron last week, but the game in between was a 42-0 loss to Western Michigan. This NIU offense is just so bad, though. I don't see this as a game they get blown out in. I'll roll with Ball State being able to hang around and take this down to the wire, but I'm picking NIU to edge them out, 20-17. UMass is coming off a pure heartbreak, nearly picking up their first win of the season against Buffalo, but choking yet again and continuing the winless season. At this point with this team, I would not be shocked if they were so dejected they just laid down and took a beating on the road this week. Central Michigan is not a super great team, but the one thing they can do is be physical and pound the rock on the ground all game long. I think they just run this ball 40 to 50 times and just do not stop punching UMass while they're down. UMass won't have an answer, in my opinion, for the physicality Central should play with, so I'll take the points, especially at home for Central. I'm going with a 38-17 final. Miami, Ohio, and Western Michigan is a complete toss-up in the MAC to me. Both of these teams have had both great weeks and terrible ones, but both still have fairly talented rosters and are at the worst, the middle of the pack in the conference. There really isn't much of a home field advantage in the MAC, but it has mattered at times this season, and I really love what I've been seeing out of Daquan Finn lately, helping this offense finally come alive at Miami. The defense did not play well against Eastern last week, which makes me think Western is going to score in this game, and that total is really low, but MAC games are so unpredictable. I'm going to take Miami at home to get it done, though, 27-24. Texas Tech missed Baron Morton last week big time as they lost on the road to Arizona State. Still a quality loss to me, though, as ASU is a very good team, and winning on the road is tough regardless, but even harder when without your starter. Morton is still day-to-day and questionable for this game, but whether he plays or not, I kind of get the vibe this Tech team is going to come out similar to how Oregon did last week and just lay the wood on a disastrous Oklahoma State team. This is just a huge mismatch in talent and motivation. I still strongly believe Texas Tech is one of the 10 best teams in the country, and Oklahoma State has just repeatedly gotten smacked around all season by anyone on their schedule. The point spread's super high, but it's definitely coverable if Tech comes to play, so I'll take them here in a blowout, 52-10. Baylor at Cincinnati should be an absolute shootout. Two great offenses led by two great quarterbacks. I like Sawyer Robinson's consistency a lot more than Brennan Sorsby's when comparing quarterback to quarterback, but the Cincinnati defense definitely has a slight edge in this game to me. I've seen them make plays and get stops this season, whereas with Baylor, they've absolutely lost games because of their inability to do so. And on the road, I just don't think they'll be able to completely outscore Cincinnati in this game. I absolutely think it goes down to the final possessions, though, and I know Sawyer Robinson's going to give them a chance to win the game no matter what. But when it comes down to one final stop, I just think Cincinnati is going to find it, while Baylor can't do that. So I'll take them at home close, 38-34. Texas at Mississippi State should be a good one. Mississippi State matches up well in this game defensively. They have great corners who can clamp up these receivers, and as we see week after week, this Texas offense is not good at all. They struggle to score and move the ball with any consistency, so I think Mississippi State has a good advantage here or there in this game. On the other end, though, Texas has one of the best defenses in the country still and will absolutely show up and come to play. I think that'll be what helps them survive in this game on the road, but this is absolutely a high upset potential game, and I don't mind anyone who wants to take it straight up. But like I said, the Texas defense can make some big plays and help them survive here. I'll go 23-20. West Virginia has one of the worst offenses in the Power 4 and some god-awful quarterback play starting two freshmen who are really struggling. They just got absolutely massacred by UCF and have now have to face a much better team and better offense in TCU this week. It is at home, but I really don't think that matters much at this point in the season for them. TCU has an excellent quarterback in Josh Hoover who can carve up this Mountaineer defense, and on the other end, I know TCU has some defensive playmakers that can take the ball away and shut down this offense. So I don't see this game being too close for very long. Give me TCU big, 41-21. Oregon hosts Wisconsin Saturday night, and this is going to be another ugly game for Wisconsin. Oregon absolutely dominated Rutgers in embarrassing fashion, really taking out that Indiana loss on them on the road. And honestly, I think we may see Oregon play like this for a good stretch of the remainder of the season. Their backs are against the wall now, and that loss definitely ignited something in them again. Not to mention, Wisconsin is just a shell of a football team. They can't score at all. The offense is terrible all around, and even the defense has gotten shredded several weeks in a row now. I just see no way they're competitive with Oregon on the road in this spot, so I'll take the Ducks big, 45-10. This Miami-Stanford game is one I really want to stay away from a spread perspective. Looking at how Miami played all year leading up until last week, I definitely think they can bounce back and dominate a weak opponent. But Carson Beck once again showed he can struggle big time, and he just does not have great zip on the ball and makes some poor decisions in the pocket. Stanford's been playing some good football lately compared to early on in the season. They just beat Florida State last week, which could give them some momentum heading into this matchup. But they also have a pretty banged up O-line and quarterback, and I think Miami's defense is going to absolutely dominate this game. So I'll hesitantly lay the points at home with Miami, 41-10. Next is Georgia Southern at Arkansas State. This Georgia Southern team seems to have really struggled with teams who have a ton of physicality and can run the football. But that is not what Arkansas State is to me. They've got a solid passing attack, but a bad offensive line, and I still do not buy the Arkansas State defense, even after last week's outing at South Alabama. This is just a better offense to me. I like J.C. French and his playmaking ability, and I've seen this team put up a ton of points in the past. They finally got another win last week against Georgia State, and I think they can use that momentum to come show up on the road and just outduel Arkansas State with a very strong offensive attack. So I'm taking them as a road dog, 34-31. Louisiana got Walker Howard back last week. He didn't play the full game, and he did not look good, but he is healthy enough to play now. But they still found zero offensive success against Southern Miss. This Troy team is very good in the group of five and has been playing great football both home and road. They've beaten decent teams on the road and come back home against a pretty lifeless offense I know this defense can handle. And on the other end, Louisiana has been a better defensive team lately, but has still gotten killed by some bad teams this season. I don't want to fade Troy right now, especially not in this spot, so I'll take him to cover at home this week, 30-20. Texas A&M at LSU is another huge game this week, especially for A&M's case. A&M's been the better team this season, picking up some huge wins over Notre Dame, Auburn, Florida, and Mississippi State. LSU has a very good defense, but it's a little banged up, and that offense just cannot sustain success at all. Once again, last week they struggled offensively with just over 300 total yards and 24 points. That's not going to be enough against Vandy on the road unless you absolutely dominate defensively, and they did not show up there either, partly due to those injuries. This LSU team just hasn't been getting it done this season in the big games, but this is a massive opportunity for them, and LSU is 20-1 in home night games in the Brian Kelly era. Their backs are completely against the wall now, and Death Valley should be rocking. If they get some key defenders back this week like I expect, I think they can bounce back and pull off an upset, 27-24. Louisville responded to the Virginia loss in a big way last week, coming off a bye and beating Miami on the road. The defense played lights out and forced 4 turnovers and should have been on 5 on Carson Beck. And they found enough offense against a very good defensive group in Miami to take that game. This week they're back home taking on a disastrous Boston College team. I just watched BC get whooped on by UConn at home, and they've taken a beating after beating this season, just about by everyone. There's no chance I'm trusting BC to be very competitive in this game, even with the thought of Louisville coming out flat after that win. Give me the Cards big, 41-13. It's Hate Week in Michigan as the Spartans host the Wolverines Saturday night. This Michigan State team has just consistently fallen down a hill this season, looking worse each game, honestly. I like how they battled early against Indiana, but that's really the only positive from that game. They still lost uncompetitively to UCLA and have one of the worst defenses in the Power 4, and an offense that can turn the ball over and just completely stall in second halves. Michigan, on the other hand, isn't super trustworthy themselves as they leave a lot of points on the field and have some questionable defensive rotations and coaching decisions. But the starting group is one of the better defenses in the Big Ten to me, and I've seen Bryce Underwood grow into a very good quarterback lately. I trust this team to come away with a win on the road, but this rivalry game is often close when there's not a massive gap between these teams, so I think MSU can cover at home. I'll go with a 31-21 final. Next is Colorado State at Wyoming. Wyoming is a pretty tough team to beat at home, but this Wyoming team really does not have much of an offense. I like Caden Anderson. I just don't think this Wyoming offense has much around him to help him out. The only time they found much offensive success this season is against atrocious defenses or in garbage time. Just last week, they faced an Air Force defense giving up a gaudy numbers all year and scored just 21 points. And although it's been a rough year for Colorado State, I've seen them find their offense, and they've got some speed in the skill positions that can score on this Wyoming defense a few times. I see this game as a pretty even matchup that'll come down to the wire and go either way. So I'll take Wyoming to survive at home, but close, 24-21. The last SEC matchup of the week is number 17 Tennessee on the road at Kentucky. Kentucky just lost in overtime to Texas last week, really controlling that Texas offense and finding just enough points themselves to get into overtime in that game. It was super low scoring though, as the Kentucky offense is bad, but their defense has held tight several times this season, and they are a decently tough place to play on the road. Tennessee just does not have a lifeless offense like Texas though, so this game will be tougher for them on that end. But I also don't trust this Tennessee defense the same way that I trust Texas's. I think Kentucky will have another chance to hang around. It's just not one I see them winning. So give me Tennessee to survive by a touchdown on the road this week, 27-20. Arizona State takes on Houston Saturday night. I think Houston's really going to struggle to move the ball against this Arizona State defense. Their offense has really only shown up against far inferior competition, as they can't really run it that well, and the weapons aren't super great for Connor Wegman. Arizona State has had some great DBs, and once again they pick up a massive win in the Big 12 last week, proving they are still one of the most talented teams in the conference when healthy. I think Sam Levitt gets even healthier this week, and he can absolutely score on this Houston team in a night game spot. So give me Arizona State to win this one pretty convincingly, 31-17. Our last game of the week is Colorado at Utah. Utah just lost the Holy War to BYU on the road, and that could either demotivate them or light a fire, and coming back home against a pretty beatable Colorado team should be a spot they get up for. They're still ranked, and their goals are still in front of them. They'll need some help, but winning out still gives them a shot, and I still believe they have a great offensive line and a quarterback who's a real playmaker when he's in rhythm, especially with his legs. I don't know if Colorado's defense is going to be able to stop him on the ground in this game, and on the other end, I do trust Utah's defense to figure out Salter enough to keep Colorado at bay enough to cover. So give me Utah 37-20. That's it for my Week 9 picks. Let me know your thoughts on any of these games down below in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
BARK Radio.